In Washington, Uber and Lyft fought hard to try and stop this. And now Uber and Lyft drivers in Washington state gain access to unemployment and paid leave under newly signed law. So if you are unemployed, let's say you got wrongfully deactivated, you'd immediately file that and you can show, hey, I was earning this, and you get on the unemployment. Now, a great way to protect those who have been deactivated, right? And this is something that every state should fight for. These guys fought hard, by the way. You know, they introduced the bill. You could go get the verbiage of that bill, get a group of drivers together, start influencing the politicians and say, hey, we need the same thing as Washington, right? Washington ride-hailing drivers will be the first in the nation to be entitled to unemployment insurance and paid family and medical leave under a bill signed by Governor Jay. Governor Jay, thank you for recognizing the drivers, unlike Governor Walz in Minnesota that vetoed and caved to Uber and Lyft's threats, right? This guy at least had the balls to stand up for drivers and do the right thing. Here we go.
Uber and Lyft drivers in Washington state gained access to unemployment and paid leave under newly signed law. By Levi Sumagazi.
Thank you, Levi.
May 16, 2023, 8:28 p.m. Eastern Time. Tens of thousands of ride-hailing drivers in Washington state will be the first in the nation to be entitled to unemployment insurance and paid family and medical leave under a bill signed by the governor this week. The legislation Governor Jay Inslee signed into law expands on other benefits, guaranteed wages, and paid sick leave that the state's transportation network company drivers gained last year from a bill backed by Uber Technologies Incorporated and Lyft Incorporated. The law will go into effect in July 2024. We know the nature of work is evolving, and so must the programs and policies that support workers and their families, Inslee said during a bill signing ceremony Monday. In an email to MarketWatch on Tuesday, State Representative Liz Berry, who wrote the legislation, said that Washington's rideshare drivers are crucial to keeping our state moving, and they deserve access to all the same benefits and protections as any other worker. The ride-hailing companies, which are trying to protect their business models, are advocating a third way in labor law that gives drivers some benefits that other employees receive but doesn't classify them as employees.
Hybrid.
When the legislation was passed in mid-April, an Uber spokesperson called the bill a true compromise between state lawmakers, labor leaders, and transportation network companies to afford drivers historic new benefits while protecting the independence and flexibility they say they want.
Thank you.
This is another historic win for drivers in Washington state and is a continuation of the progress made last year, a Lyft spokesperson said. Peter Kuhl is president of the Drivers Union in Washington, which is affiliated with Teamsters Local 117, which backed the bill. Finally, Uber and Lyft drivers in Washington state will no longer have to make the choice between caring for a sick family member and earning the money that allows them to provide for that family, Kuhl said. For-hire drivers deserve the same rights as every other worker in this country. But Veena Dubai, a law professor at University of California Hastings College of Law in San Francisco who advocates for gig workers, said she is concerned that this bill further entrenches the company's business model and legalizes the fiction that these workers are not employees. Ride-hailing drivers get paid for what the companies have referred to as engaged time, or the time between when they accept a ride request and complete the ride. A legislative report with specifics of the bill calls that passenger platform time, the hours on which unemployment insurance eligibility will be based, is double the passenger platform time, which the ride-hailing companies will be required to report to the state. For the purposes of the paid family or medical leave, a driver must have worked at least 820 hours in Washington during either the first 4 of the past 5 quarters or the last 4 quarters before submitting for leave. The total hours worked will be calculated by taking total earnings and dividing by the state's minimum wage. Drivers will have to pay premiums into the program and will be reimbursed by the ride-hailing companies. Individuals who are considered employees pay into their state's disability and leave systems along with their employers, and employees' contributions are automatically deducted from their paychecks. Because drivers are not considered employees, they are being considered self-employed for the purposes of paid leave and must pay the premiums up front. before her bill was signed into law. Very explained in an email to MarketWatch that this complexity is why the paid family and medical leave portion of this bill is structured as a pilot with an additional report to gain more insight into user behavior and develop a permanent policy. The pilot expires in 2028. But in the meantime, Berry said the reimbursement process will allow drivers to be eligible for paid leave by paying into the system and being compensated by the companies, where otherwise the cost of coverage would be solely theirs. From the archives, May 2022, Seattle okays minimum wage for gig workers at delivery.
Thank you. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is something that every state can achieve, right? You got to get together. You got to form a group, you got to form a movement, you got to get social media involved, you got to get the politicians involved, and you got to get someone involved that knows how to write a bill. You could take the verbiage of this bill. Right now, I believe Sergio has said this as well many a times, and this is probably the best model out there, right, is Washington across the entire United States. So why not copy the best model out there? Now, for those people that get again wrongfully deactivated here, you know, if you've paid in, you have your unemployment support waiting there for you. For the people that just got kicked off the platform and you filed an appeal and you're waiting weeks and months and you're losing money and you're losing $4, $5, $6, $8, $10, $12,000, come straight to GigRocket, our sponsor here, GigRocket. We will help you get back. Not only that, we'll help you also file a small claims or an arbitration to get all of those lost earnings back. So check it out at gigrocket.com. Thank you, Washington, for leading. Thank you, Washington, for showing us the way. Any Washington drivers out there that can report on this, and let's start this movement so we can duplicate this model throughout the country and internationally. Thank you, everyone. Please comment.